Characteristics of meat are the selection, grading, storage, and handling. I would recommend you to strongly go through chapter 10 and 11 of Professional Cooking by Wayne Gislin. Composition. So there are three major components of the muscle tissue: water, protein, and fat. And you would be surprised to know that water is about 75% of muscle tissue. With such a high percentage of water, you can see why shrinkage can be a big problem in cooking of meat, right? It means that when you overcook meat, there's a loss of moisture, yeah, and then the meat becomes dry. There's a loss of weight and obviously a lot of loss of profit. Like in the previous chapter, we have spoken about yield. We went through throughput yield right from live weight till cooked weight, and in the process, we saw that there is at every stage there is a loss in the weight of the intermediate product, and we have understood that this uh, has a lot to do with the water content, particularly the cooking loss. This is got to do with water. So when you convert this into kilograms and then at the end of it the guest is paying in terms of kilograms or in terms of the portion that he is having, it obviously affects your profitability also. Protein. The protein is an important percentage. About 20% of the muscle tissue is protein, right? Protein, as you all know, coagulates when it is heated, right? Like how in an egg white, you know that whole egg, when it is boiled, the egg white coagulates, and you know what a boiled egg looks like. That is coagulation of protein. Similarly, even in a muscle tissue, the texture before cooking and after cooking is obviously not same, and the difference is because of coagulation of protein. So when it is done to the desired degree, it is said to be done. The word, yeah, done. After the protein has coagulated, applying higher heat toughens it. That is overcooking of happens then. Fat is an important component, and we require to understand this part very properly. Fat accounts for up to 5% of muscle tissue. Of course, more fat may surround the muscles, but in muscle tissues up to 5% could be there. A beef carcass can have as much as 30% of fat. Nevertheless, a certain amount of fat is desirable for three reasons. What are the reasons? Number one, juiciness. So there's a term called marbling which we shall be discussing about soon. It is actually the distribution of fat within the muscle tissues that makes it a bit look like marble. You know, the floor marble that we use, Italian marble, where you see streaks are there in the middle of white. You see that kind of streaks are there. Just the differences over here, the lean meat color is pink or reddish, and the color of the marbling is the fat, which is a little off-white to whitish in color. That is marbling. The distribution of fat is called marbling. So the juiciness enjoyed in a well-marbled beef is due to more fat than due to moisture. Is more due to fat than due to moisture. The surface fat protects the meat, especially the roast, from drying out. But that is another part. See, there's a process called barding. Barding is when you have a large joint of meat which is being cooked. What happens is the surface is likely to lose out on moisture. To prevent that from happening, you could put in a layer of fat on top, you know, a slice of fat. If it is there on top of the meat which is being roasted, then the meat remains juicy. So that process is called barding over there. So juiciness as a character is to do with marbling. Also can be maintained through a process called barding. Also called, there's something called larding also, which, as you all know, it is about injecting uh, a strip of meat or inserting a strip of meat into a large roast. That is called larding. So tenderness, the muscles separate the muscle fibers, making them easier to chew. So that is the other characteristic of fat. You know, first is juiciness, the second is the tenderness. These are the two contributions that fat has to the overall product. And all in all this contributes to the flavor, right? So those of you who are familiar with sheikh kebabs or with keema, you would see that the person, if you ask the butcher to make some keema, he would generally add some fat and introduce it into the meat which is being minced. This insertion of the fat into the product typically accounts for some of the flavor and the juiciness of the product. So fat is a important contributor to flavor. This picture over here, you can see the marbling of meat that we were talking about, the distribution of fat in the muscle tissues, that is marbling. And there is a little bit of carbohydrate too. Yes, you heard that right. Meat does have a little bit of carbohydrate too. So it is actually insignificant from the perspective of nutrition, but it is very important from the perspective of what is known as Maillard's reaction. Maillard's reaction is to do with the browning part of the meat. When meat is browned, when it is seared or it is heated or roasted or fried, all of this can happen because of the presence of carbohydrates. Maillard's reaction takes place when meat are browned by roasting, broiling or sauteing. Without these carbohydrates, the desirable flavor and appearance of brown meats would not be achieved. But that's how a brown meat looks like, and this browning is because of carbohydrate present in the meat. This would not have happened if there was no carbohydrate. Structure of meat. First is muscle fibers. So lean meat is composed of long, thin muscle fibers. So that you can see when you see these meat by itself, you can make out there are fibers which are running around, whether you have chicken or you have lamb or any other meat, beef, whatever it is. You can see that the muscle tissue, they have a certain pattern, and they are like fibers running across. Right, so over here you can see you can see the pattern of the grain. See, this is the pattern of the grain. This is the way that the fibers are running. You can see this is the way that the fibers are running. So those are the meat fibers over here, right? Different cuts would provide different kind of meat fiber. I mean, throughout the carcass or throughout all the parts of the meat, the texture is not the same. Depends on which part of the carcass the meat is taken, the texture of the meat fiber or the muscle fiber would be different. So here are a few examples given over here. These are all depends on which part of the carcass meat is taken. The fibers, they look a little different. It could be smooth or it could be distributed or it could be uniform. Connective tissue, very, very important part. Connective tissue, these are what actually put muscle fibers together. So muscle fibers are bound together in a network of proteins called connective tissue. So each muscle fiber is connected with a connective tissue, and important to understand that connective tissue has to be cooked properly for the meat to be tender. It has to be dealt with. I will not use the term cook, but the connective tissue, depending on what it is, has to be dealt with properly for the meat to be edible and properly chewable. So which meats are high in connective tissue and which are low is something that we require to understand depending upon the cut of the meat, whatever is there. There are certain kind of meats which are high in connective tissue and some which are low. Now, for example, if you look at the tenderloin, it is the tenderest part of beef. The tenderloin has got least amount of connective tissue. It is essentially a unused muscle that runs across in the loin area, which we'll be talking about later. But in contrast, if you were to look at the shin, or if you were to look at the round of beef, or if you were to look at the scrag end or the neck end or the brisket, these are high in fiber, high in connective tissues. The more exercised the muscle is, the higher the connective tissue over there. So connective tissue is required to be properly dealt with to make the tough meats tender. So here are your secrets. The older the animal and the more exercise the meat part, the tougher the product is, right? So collagen and elastin, two very different types of connective tissues, which are the most important kinds of connective tissues that require to be dealt with in our cooking process. Collagen is white in color and elastin is a yellow in color. So collagen, it requires long, slow cooking, right? If you look at traditional cooking methods in India, there is this dum method of cooking, wherein you cover the meat and it is simmered for hours on very slow heat. Just enough to create a slight simmer kind of a thing. So that kind of a long slow cooking, it breaks down or dissolves the collagen by turning it into gelatin. So that is what happens when you slow cook collagen or the connective tissue between muscles, right? Right. And of course, the muscle tissue is about 75% water, so moisture is always present when meat is cooked, except for very large roast. However, long cooking by a dry heat method has the danger of evaporating too much moisture from the meat. Therefore, moist cooking methods at low temperatures are the most effective for turning. So essentially here what we're talking about is a moist heat cooking method. So it is just not slow heat, we are talking about moist heat too, right? Moist heat at low temperatures. That's what we are looking at for turning meat high in connective tissues into tender, juicy, finished product. Other factors also help tenderize collagen, and what are they? Acid. So which is why you see we marinate meats. Either you use curd, which is pretty often used in our Indian context, or one would use maybe some lemon juice or vinegar. All of these acids, when the meat is marinated with that, or like tomato or wine in terms of continental preparations, what happens is they all help in tenderizing the meat. So acid helps in dissolving collagen. First one that you learned is long slow cooking, and the second one is acid. The third one is enzymes, right? So there are different kind of enzymes which are already present within meat, and as the meat is aged, what happens is these enzymes, they work on it. Enzymes cannot work when it is in a deep freezer. At below 0 degrees, enzymes won't work. But while it is, there is a term called aging, which we shall discuss a little later. So the enzymes in meat, they work when the meat is resting after slaughter. That's what it means. Apart from that, an enzyme can also be injected into the meat before it's slaughtered to give it an extra dose of enzymes so that the meat becomes more tender after it is slaughtered. Yeah, that's a dumb example of cooking over here. And that's lemon, or you have wine, or yeah. So here you have pineapple. Pineapple has got an enzyme called bromelain. So bromelain is the enzyme in pineapple which could be used for tenderizing meat. In terms of marination also it could be used. And you have papain, which is from papaya, raw papaya, and you have ficin, right, which is from figs. Elastin is a connective tissue. So apart from collagen, elastin is the other tissue, but elastin has very different properties from collagen. Elastin requires to be ideally removed. That's the best thing that you can do with elastin. While collagen, you would wait for it to typically dissolve away and become gelatin and soften away. Elastin cannot become softer. So you require to typically remove elastin mechanically using a knife, or if it cannot be removed, then you require to make the meat into smaller pieces by cubing, or you require to pound it, or you require to grind it. One of these three processes has to be used for the elastin because it cannot be broken down during cooking. Yeah, here that is an example of how you can remove. You require to use a knife to remove the elastin from the meat. So the cut over here, it is short ribs, which is over here. You have short ribs which are over here. Gradation of meat by USDA. So there are different kinds of. The USDA stands for the United States Department of Agriculture, and that being uh, a benchmark, so we will consider that only. So you have prime, which is the best quality of beef, of veal, which is the young of beef, of lamb, all of this, it is prime. And then the next after prime you have got the choice, and then after choice you have select. So this is the standard gradation: prime, choice and select. The best is prime, second is choice, and third is select. All of this is typically about how soft the product is, what the distribution of fat to meat is. That's what determines how whether the product is labeled as prime or choice or select. It does not mean that select meat is not flavorful or cannot be used for cooking. More often than not, select meat is more flavorful than prime meat also. And that is because these are more exercise muscles. So the method of cooking that is used over here, that requires to be different. It typically has to be the moist slow cooking method technique for the product to get cooked properly. But the flavor of select cuts are typically very good. So this over here is the logo of USDA. This is the logo that you would find on the carcass which has been inspected and certified by the US. Aging. Aging is the process that is needed for a carcass to become soft. So after a animal has been has been slaughtered, what happens is it becomes stiff. It becomes stiff because of a process called rigor mortis, and this kind of a carcass is called green meat, right? So the softening of the meat, it takes between softened, right? And the softening is because of enzymes which are already there in the flesh right from the beginning. The softening happens. The distribution of the enzymes is what makes the meat soft. So after the meat has been slaughtered, typically it takes a few days for it to reach the point of consumption, and at this point, if it is not frozen, then it gets aged by itself. Beef would be aged by typically hanging in a cold aging chamber for about 2-3 days. Yeah, that's what happens. It could go more also. We'll come to that later. But talking about these enzymes are naturally present, and sometimes artificial enzymes are also injected before the slaughter. Or other than this, the other process is, directly we can add the enzymes during the marination stage. That also could be another way of softening the meat. So what are these enzymes? These enzymes typically are either from or they could be from papaya or from fig. Yeah, so they are different enzymes over there. So yeah, we are talking about this natural tenderizing process, and that is called aging. So controlled conditions in coolers is what is required for aging of beef to happen. Okay, so beef takes about 3-4 days, and then smaller animals require lower number of days. Aging increases the tenderness and the flavor of meat. Yeah. So over here you have aged meat over here. Meat is being aged over here. The carcass, they are in cooling chambers. They are kept over there hanging for about 3-4 days. That is how meat. Wet aging and dry aging. So wet aging is done in vacuum packs, and dry aging is done directly. So wet aging helps in saving of moisture. There is lesser of moisture loss and therefore lesser of weight loss. Dry age, about 20% of moisture might be lost during the process, but the flavor is intense. It intensifies. It is a costlier product. Yeah. This is an example of a wet aged beef over here. This is an example of a dry aged beef over here. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.